And I like that phrase, I've been very generous to myself. That's a really good one. Because again, if we come back to really where we started in episode 1, I think we were talking about loving neighbor as ourselves. And actually, if we were identifying the way in which we've been generously loving ourselves, would we be able to do likewise to those that are considered neighbors? Now, those are those in close proximity to us who we share a wall with, but also those who are outside of our normal people group. Are we able to say we have been generous in the way in which, and actually, if the benchmark is ourself, and we're identifying what generosity to ourselves looks like, can we mirror and match that?
Hi, and welcome to the Proximity Podcast. This is season 3, and it is our final episode of season 3. This has flown by. I am joined, as always, with what shall I say about you, Sam?
You could use my name, Sam Ward.
With the Sam Ward,
yes.
the inspiring
there we go.
Sam Ward, and it's great to be with you, Sam. How are you doing? I'm Natalie, by the way. And
hello, Natalie. It's wonderful to be with you.
That sounded like I was telling you that I'm Natalie.
We should introduce ourselves.
Yeah. We've been doing this podcast for 3 seasons. Who are you?
I feel like I know you quite well now.
Well, you know all my stories.
Yeah, and that's good. That's an important part of it.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. We've been journeying, haven't we, through this idea of Jubilee principles.
Yes.
And wow, we've gone down a few rabbit holes or two along the way. But we wanted to land our final episode with really something quite practical, I think, of what does that actually look like. We've tried to theorize a fair bit. We've tried to apply it along the way with good stories. But we wanted to be able to land it with what it means today.
Yeah, I think we've been a little bit controversial at times, haven't we? We're aware that we
you. I've sat silently and let you burn.
What's happened? Thank you very much. Yeah, well, that's okay, because people can send their criticism to you, and you can just not tell me. But we actually really hope that, I guess, this is causing people to think, like, as in, we don't expect everyone who listens to agree with us, do we? We don't always agree with each other, or I don't always agree with myself, but. I guess it's more about trying to think this stuff through, isn't it? And that's what we're trying to do. We're on this journey, aren't we, of trying to think this stuff through, trying to, like you said it so beautifully a couple of episodes ago, I think it was, about just we want to live in full obedience to Jesus. We want to kind of give out all to him. We want to say, help yourselves, Jesus. And we want to see this Jubilee principle in the Bible. And then we see Jesus come and bring it. And kind of in Luke 4 saying, you know, today the scripture's fulfilled in your hearing, and they would have known that year of the Lord's favour was this Jubilee concept. And I want to be like Jesus. And so even if we've been controversial and maybe said some things that people wouldn't agree with, hopefully it's at least thought-provoking and helping us all go in that direction of, someone said, long obedience. Is that Eugene Peterson?
Oh, the master. Yeah,
was it him?
For sure. Yeah, I think so.
I just made that up.
Yeah. In the right direction or something like that.
But so we do need practical help, don't we?
Yeah. But before we get there, just thinking about that Luke 4 passage where Jesus lands with the year of the Lord's favour. Do you think that was a year, or do you think that's the season post with Christ and post his death and resurrection, that this becomes a season of favour? And should we therefore be seeing more of Jubilee outworking as the kingdom of God is now amongst us? And should we be not seeing a shying away or less Jubilee action, but more Jubilee action in the church, with the restoration of society, with social holiness breaking out, with the revelation in mind and all that is to come, with a new heaven and a new earth? Are we expected to be seeing more Jubilee things?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. There are few.
No, yeah, absolutely. And like we sort of talked about a little bit in episode 1 of this season, that's why the charity I work for is called Jubilee Plus, because we believe we are now in the year of the Lord's favour, which isn't a literal year. It is the time from basically, I guess, Jesus dying, rising from the dead, ascending, sending the Holy Spirit to Jesus returning. the fulfillment of all things, the day when there'll be no more sin, no more sickness, no more death, no more poverty, no more injustice, no more oppression and exploitation. I mean, aren't you looking forward to that day? That is going to be a wonderful day. And that is the year of the Lord's favour. And that is the day of vengeance, which is the day full justice comes, which is going to be wonderful for anyone who's struggling with injustice right now to know there's a day when that full justice comes. But so, yeah, for me, this is the season, long season of Jubilee. This is the year of the Lord's favour that we live in. And I believe it's our joyful task, but also responsibility to be kind of continuing what Jesus started with, ushering in the kingdom of God. You know, he brought the kingdom. He said the kingdom of God is at hand, or the kingdom of God is near. And he brought the kingdom. And when the kingdom comes, the sick get healed, the dead get raised, poverty gets alleviated, justice gets brought, rolled down like rivers. And we are part of bringing that right now in our local communities, but also in the age in which we live. We can do it globally too, which is what a privilege. Like we're in a season of history where we get to have a local and a global impact with the choices we make, which I think what a privilege.
Wow. That's really helpful, Nat. I really, really like where you've taken us. Do you see an ever-improving world then? That's the only problem I get is I read the news and it doesn't feel like the church out working Jubilee is seeing the renewal of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I believe that it goes on getting better and better and better, and then Jesus comes again. I think, if anything, he said it's going to get worse and worse and worse, and then he's coming again. But I do think, actually, that's a paradox, isn't it? Because I think at the same time, we as Christians, as Spirit-filled, Bible-believing followers of Christ, are about bringing his kingdom wherever we go. And I think part of the problem is that we're not doing it. But also it should be these kind of shoots of life that everywhere we step, we're bringing hope, we're bringing life, like we started with in episode 1 of this season. And so for me, there's something about the darkness does get rolled back, and it doesn't mean the darkness gets less dark. And there might still be parts of the darkness where it is terrifyingly dark. But actually, where I set my feet, because Jesus said he was the light of the world, but he also said, I'm the light of the world. So actually, I'm bringing light in my little pocket of darkness. And I do believe we should be bringing more transformation than we are, but it means radical lives laid down in sacrifice, in, walking in a manner worthy of the calling we've received, living in view of God's mercies, as you talked about in a previous episode. So, I think we know that there's wars and famines and things that are going to continue until Jesus returns. But I do think we're supposed to play a part in seeing the kingdom extend and flourish, just in the same way when Adam and Eve sinned, sin then kind of crept across the earth, didn't it? Spread. I think we're supposed to spread the kingdom, which is a rolling back of those things.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
And light pushes back the darkness. And I suppose if we see these Jubilee principles beginning to outwork, you'd hope there would be this push against darkness. So let's look practically then.
Yeah.
In the time that we've got remaining, if we were to sort of look at 4 different values of Jubilee, if there was this idea of Sabbath rest, if there was redistribution, reconciliation, restoration, as attributes of Jubilee, what does that look like? How do we see that displayed within the church? Let's talk about, firstly, about rest.
Yeah.
Sabbath rest. I love the idea that as Christians, we would be, very good at rest because it is commanded, but also that our Jubilee principles being outworked would enable the rest of others. And I think it should be something, it's interesting when people sometimes talk about, I would never want your job. It's too hard work. And I think actually when the world look in on the Christian, do they see a rested human being or do they think we're utterly exhausted? Is there anything of that is desirable about our lifestyle, or are we just spent half the time? I wonder about, the John 10:10 came to give you life and life to the full, how life on the go and life to the full work together. It has to be possible. Christ commanded us both to be those who go and make disciples, Great Commission people, but also being those who know the fullness of life. And I think having this rest, being restful people is so essential in all that. But maybe some of it's being rested in Christ, rested in the knowledge of his sufficiency. Even our dependence. We talked in the previous episode about Paul knowing contentment. I think there's a real rest that comes in contentment in what God has given. When God is enough, when we're able to sing, Christ is enough for me, and being content in that place. I think deep contentment in the provision, the person of Jesus enables us to be able to rest.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I find this a real challenge, if I'm honest, though, because I struggle to rest well. I'm very much, I like being on the go. I always think I've got more, I can fit in more than I can. And, you and I both have jobs that they're not neat and tidy 9 to 5, Monday to Friday sort of thing. And so it is a challenge. And we talked about in season 2 in Isaiah 58, where there's that kind of the two things God is, well, there's more than two things in it, but two of the things there that God is saying are true fasting. One is spend yourselves on behalf of the poor. And the other is honor and take joy in the Sabbath. I don't think I know anyone who's good at both those things, including myself. Like, I know people who spend themselves on behalf of the poor, and I know people who Sabbath really, really well. I don't know of anyone actually who comes to mind for me who actually does both those things. And so for me, that's a question I feel like the Lord's really challenging me personally on at the moment. But also,
neither's right, though, is it?
No. We're supposed to do both, aren't we? And
I think I would be more in the spending myself thing.
Yeah, and me too. And I think we know each other well enough that we that wouldn't be a surprise. But then I have other people who are very good at Sabbath, but then probably are taking it to that too far extent, which again, I think is kind of this cultural moment we're in of self-care. You do you, look after yourself. It might not be said as look after number one, but it is very much, kind of put your own oxygen mask on before you put on someone else's. Make sure that you are getting like your spa day if that's what you need or whatever it might be.
You know me so well.
I wouldn't be I think that's my idea of hell, but that or camping. Oh. But, so actually though, I believe we are called to lead lives that are open to disruption. And so, I think about, we don't want to be those who are so boundaried with the Sabbath that no one can disrupt or interrupt it, because Jesus himself was like, you guys don't want me to heal this guy on the Sabbath. What are you talking about? Like, that's ridiculous. Or, his disciples are hungry, so they pick some wheat, don't they? And they eat it. And he's just like, you guys don't, to the critical Pharisees, he's like, you guys don't get this stuff. So the Sabbath is meant to be a gift to us, and God modeled it for us. God didn't need to rest on the seventh day, did he? But he modeled something to us as a gift to us. But it's also not supposed to be this thing that we preserve to the extent that no one can get into it. And I've had a bit of a reaction, if I'm honest, to some of the talk around Sabbath, where it's a bit like, just put all your phones away in a box, and for 24 hours, it's just you and your nuclear family. Because then I'm like, okay, so what do I do as a single woman who lives on my own? Do I put my phone in a box and not talk to anyone for 24 hours? And is that rest? Because you know what? I think I'm going to feel not rested. I'm going to feel isolated. And so I feel like there's a whole load to unpack here. But I do think we have a role to play in resting well, so that the world looks at us and goes, you managed to both spend yourselves and Sabbath well. But then I think the key thing you touched on in a previous episode as well is, how do we ensure that people can Sabbath when all the odds might be stacked against them for rest? The woman who's got 3 jobs so that she can put food on the table for her kids. And maybe, the woman I met, she's a single mum with 3 kids. Single mum, 2 kids, 3 jobs. She's working 3 jobs and she's still needing the food bank because the 3 jobs pay the rent and the bills but don't pay for food on the table. Imagine me telling her, take a day off, hey. Or even some of the other nations that I've visited recently, like India and other places like that, where I tried to say something about the Sabbath when I was in India, and everyone just looked at me with blank faces, because they're doing so much church ministry and seeing people saved and added, and it's wonderful, and these amazing stories. but they're also having to run their own businesses to finance it. And the idea that they would take 1 in 7 days off would be utterly crazy. And yet that's what God wants us to do. So how practically do we help other people rest then in those situations?
Yeah, I really like it. I think hospitality is key, actually, and welcoming people in. And I think that was a fundamental attribute, wasn't it? Even the sacrifices that were made were, there's the burnt ones that you couldn't eat, but what was sacrificed upon the altar could then be used to cook and meals communally, which freed some people. I mean, someone's still got to cook there, eh? But I think, enabling there to be an environment where people are freed. And actually the equity then of the meal table, I love that when you've got whoever, all are invited around the table and all eat and share the same meal. I think food is essential in that. But I also think we need to be using the things that we have to make sure people are enabled to rest. Do we pay for that lovely mum and free her from a month's rent so that she can take her children away? And do we commit to that? Again, no, am I my brother's keeper? Are you that woman's keeper? Yes, you are. Then actually, is the burden fully yours? No, I think it should be the broader church. But are we identifying the people in our midst and saying, what does it look like for you to know the fullness of rest in God? What is stopping you from rest? Do we ever actually ask that as a church? Are you ever asked it? Someone, what would it look like for you to truly know rest? If you struggle with rest and you're not doing Sabbath well, and that's not cool, how do we enable that for you? What would it look like to release you? And maybe as a trustee, I should be asking this more.
Just if you could just lead Jubilee Plus for a month, that would be great. Is that all right? No, I mean, actually, but that is. I think this is such a key thing because there are some real practical things we can do, like ask the question of people,
which is agency, what you talked about earlier, right?
Exactly. It's not just imposing something on someone because, like I say, if someone, and I've had well-meaning friends say this to me, you need to follow this kind of ruthless elimination of hurry thing of putting your phone away for 24 hours and blah, blah, blah.
Light a candle.
And and sit in a bath for 24 hours. I don't know about that. But the thing is, the people who've sort of said that to me and they're friends of mine, so hopefully they're not listening to this and feeling criticised because I've never thought about it before.
Whom specifically?
Should I just name them? No, I'm not going to name them. But, actually I could, because they're good enough friends, if that conversation happens again, go, actually, guys, let's talk about what would give me rest. And I may not even know the answer. I might need help finding the answer, but I would at least be involved in the conversation. And I did point out to them, that's lovely for your family of 5 and you have your 24 hours of blissful blocking out the outside world. But actually, shouldn't you even invite me into that as like community? Because nuclear family is not a biblical concept or construct at all, is it?
Wow,
so,
love that.
And my home is my safe place. My home is my castle. You're not allowed in is also not a biblical idea at all. So actually, I love the fact that at some of the occasions that are normally reserved for strictly family, people in my church invite me, whether that's holidays, whether that's Christmas Day. I've been out on people's anniversary meals with them. Yeah, it's all right, apart from one of the guys told the waiter that he was with his 2 wives. And
cool.
That was not cool. I mean, to be fair, the waiter looked horrified and then he was like, no, I'm joking. So that backfired nearly. But the thing is, like, so what does it look like? There's a couple in my church who have taken on increasing pastoral responsibility in church, and they've got 2 kids who are wonderfully energetic. They're beautiful kids, but they've got energy. I do not know where it comes from. I don't know how they sustain it for so long. And another friend of mine phoned me up a couple of weeks ago actually and said, should we offer to take the kids to McDonald's or something just to give them like an hour on their own? And we ended up taking them to the beach at McDonald's, and it wasn't my idea, and I thought, it ended up being 90 minutes. Does 90 minutes on their own give them any rest? So when we got back, I thought, they're going to clean the house or they're going to get some financial admin done, or I was hoping they wouldn't do those things, but I thought, I wonder what they'll do. And so just saying to them, hey, what did you do? And they had just walked to a little bar, had a glass of wine together. They'd spent an hour and a half just chatting about how they are, and how they're finding life at the minute. And they just hadn't had a chance to do that for a while. And you think that's a pocket of rest. It's not a full Sabbath. But also when you were talking, I was reminded of a woman in my church years and years ago who, again, single mum, 3 kids, really full on job. And actually there were about probably a dozen of us who all took an aspect of her responsibilities. So mine was I drove one of her kids to a dance lesson once a week and waited outside and then took her home at the end of it. So that was just one less thing that her mum had to do. But because there were about a dozen of us who all took stuff like that and everyone just took their one manageable thing. And I love that idea of that's community care, isn't it? That's and she was asked, what are the things that are the pinch points or the burdens? And she was able to list a number of things and each of us was able to go, we were in the room together talking about this and I was able to go, I'll do that one. And someone else is like, I'll do this one. And between us, we've managed to take the burden of some of this. And so she's able then, like life in general is more restful. I don't know whether that specifically meant she got a Sabbath, like a set 1 in 7 days off or whatever, but it definitely meant there was more rest in her life than there would have been otherwise.
Those are so good practical examples, Nat. I really, really like those. Thank you for sharing. I think we should keep it moving.
Yeah.
And let's talk about redistribution.
Okay.
So at the point of Jubilee, there is this giving back, isn't there? There is the release of anything that may have been collected. You've got 2 fields when you should have only had 1. Let's make sure that goes back to its rightful owner.
Yeah.
This redistribution of resources. Do we see that in the nation? What would it look like practically, do you think? I think, are we good at taking stock of what we've collected up and recognising those who have less? I think there probably needs to be a fair amount of work. We're better at that maybe, or are we better at that globally than we are locally?
I don't know whether we're better at it, or particularly good at it in either way. I mean, there's enough food in the world to go around, and yet there are people starving to death in nations of the world. There's an easy, in one sense, we can see what's going on around the world because of modern technology and the news and the internet, and so we're not as shielded from some of it. You can shield yourself from it, but we don't have to be shielded from it. But at the same time, there is the distance, which means we can say, that's not my responsibility. And interestingly, I might ask you, you said I'm my brother's keeper. Is it my brother next door? Is it my brother overseas? And I feel like Jesus told enough parables, and particularly the one of the Good Samaritan, I think, But even if I just look at who Jesus told me to love, it's pretty much everyone, isn't it? So, yeah.
But it's knowing the need. And it's also knowing the circumstances and being relationally connected. I think that is an important part.
Yeah.
So if you hear about an increasing famine somewhere, I would love to think that there was a very creative way. But I think it's knowing the specific need and also knowing how to give to it. I think we've talked in the past about Jackie Pullinger seeing on the news the plight of people locked on a ship without food and sends a container of oranges. I wish I knew how to send containers of oranges. Yeah. But maybe I know people on the ground, or maybe now because of technology, there are charities, NGOs on the ground who I could approach and give to. Yeah. And you don't want to be arm's length there, but you've got to trust that there's people on the ground who can deliver.
Absolutely. I think as well, we want to be cautious, though, that we don't just chuck money at stuff and say their job done as well, because there's the proximity element as well about our doorstep. So sometimes what's needed is money. I can't send a shipping container of oranges, but if Jackie Pullinger says I need X amount of money, I can probably give towards it, and therefore that's okay. But I know of some Christians who are like, well, I give to this overseas thing and that overseas thing, so why do I need to be concerned about my local food bank or whatever? But I think there's some of this starts with a bit of a reality check on what we've got. So I remember my pastor encouraging me when I was about to talk on materialism in the church. I was talking in the church on materialism, just to be unambiguous. I wasn't talking about materialism.
Is there a difference?
Maybe not. But he encouraged me to just check my own, not check my own heart, but check my own bank statements. He said, have you looked through, you're about to bring a message on materialism, can you do it with an integrity that, just be careful you're not going to say anything that means you're not practicing what you preach, basically. And
Wow.
so he encouraged me to go through a month's bank statements. I ended up going through 2 because I'd been on holiday and I thought that's not fair because it's a particular month that's going to be different to a different. So I went through 2 months, and just it's such a challenge when I saw how much I was spending on what I would call luxuries, and I was generous to myself in what I considered essential. So any supermarket shop went down as essential, even though I would have bought wine, which isn't. Sorry if this is going to be awful for some listeners. Sorry to say that's not essential. That is a luxury. It would have meant if I bought a bar of chocolate. What I'm saying is it wasn't all like bread, vegetables. Not much of it was veg. But anyway, so I'm generous to myself in what I'm considering essential. I also had a grey area because things like life insurance, I have to have it, but I don't want to spend money on that. So that feels like it's neither a luxury nor an essential. So that went in grey area. But I still found, to my surprise, that I was spending about 27% of my income in those 2 months on luxuries.
Wow.
And if you'd asked me to guess, I'd have said, I bet I spend about 5 to 10% on luxuries. And so I was really taken aback. And I just encourage people to do this exercise. I now do it routinely, like sort of once a year, every 18 months or so, just as a bit of a reality check on redistribution. Actually, if I'm going out for dinner in a restaurant once, twice a week, even if it's a cheap restaurant, even if it's a Wetherspoons, whatever, actually, there are people in my community who can't put food on the table. So is part of my sacrificial living that actually I give the money that I would have spent on going out for dinner to someone who I know is struggling financially to put food on the table. I mean, I'm not saying we all need to do that and we should never go out for dinner. The danger is being misunderstood, isn't it? But we need to have a reality check about how much we've got. A lot of us, I think, do. And I find it really helpful to keep giving myself that reality check.
I like it. And I like that phrase, I've been very generous to myself. That's a really good one. Because again, if we come back to really where we started in episode 1, I think we were talking about loving neighbour as ourselves. And actually, if we were identifying the way in which we've been generously loving ourselves, would we be able to do likewise to those that are considered neighbours? Now, those are those in close proximity to us who we share a wall with, but also those who are outside of our normal people group. Are we able to say we have been generous in the way in which, and actually, if the benchmark is ourself, and we're identifying what generosity to ourselves looks like, can we mirror and match that? And that's why I like that idea of, mentioned in a previous episode about, if I'm buying a luxury, would I be able to afford 2? Because that's what's it going to take in order to be able to love in the same way. And I think that is a really great thing. Because again, there was something of the Jubilee principles that ensured that everybody had an equity, that there was enough for them, wasn't there? We need to keep moving, don't we?
Well, I'm looking. Yeah, we do. But just on this, let me just think another thing that we can do practically, though.
Yeah.
Just quick is on redistribution. Is next time you walk through the front door, write down the first 20 things you see in your home, and then work out how many of them you actually needed, how many of them are essential, how many of them. Because I know for me. Like, actually, maybe it's unfair because as I walk through the door, the first thing I'm going to see is probably like a pair of shoes and a coat that I'm not wearing at that time. And like, obviously, if I'm wearing one coat and I'm wearing one pair of shoes, that I can give those away. But again, I just think these can be helpful things for us to go, okay, reality check here. I have actually got way more than I need. So what does it look like for me to begin on this journey of Jubilee redistribution? Can't even say it, but can I live it?
Yeah, that's great. Let's talk reconciliation then. Is there anything of those Jubilee principles regarding the reconciliation? I suppose there's the reconciliation of God and man that is dealt with as part of the broader Jubilee thing as sin is addressed. But is there elements of Jubilee which are around reconciliation when it comes to relationships locally for us as well? Is that part of that social holiness, is the restoration of relationship?
Yeah, and I think we've touched on a lot of times this season community, haven't we? And so there's something of, reconciliation implies we've fallen out. So, but if we take reconciliation in its, actually we're living in harmony, in unity, in community, then actually I think there's a really big piece to this when it comes to Jubilee. But I think also there's something of just relationships between people and power dynamics that shifted. So, say you've put yourself into slavery, and then you have your choice. Would you like to go back to your land and we'll furnish you with what you need, supply you liberally, as we said earlier in a different episode, or would you like to stay? And would you like to, have you felt safer, I guess, here? Have you enjoyed the provision here? Have you been okay? Like, your choice. And so if they choose to go back, then that power dynamic shifts. So no one's going on getting more and more powerful all the time, but also no one's totally powerless, because when things are restored, there's that kind of, so there's a reconciliation aspect in that, isn't there? Because you're not living with a constant power dynamic. Inequality isn't growing. We haven't really used the word inequality. And that's a big part of this, isn't it? Is that society can't go on becoming less and less equal.
Yes.
Because God has put restrictions.
And we do that with money, don't we? The rich get richer. But actually, it works with power too, that the powerful get more powerful. Yeah. And actually, there needs to be a shift there, doesn't there? And actually, when we're talking about those that we are seeking to serve, even listening to how you talk about your formed program and those who would identify themselves as non-leaders, who you are trained, I think it's quite Jubilee that you would speak another story. This is a line in the sand. What was your description previously? I think we try to do it here when we take on team members that most of whom are former offenders. And we want there to be a line in the sand. You're no longer going to be this. The future is clear ahead of you now. Step into that. And that's difficult. And that's even some of the stuff regarding, was you provide someone with new teeth? Because actually even the old physical is a reminder of an old character that needs to really be moved into and given full opportunity to be the fulfillment of God, all that God intends to do within you. But I love the idea of speaking a new story and giving a fresh start. That's what I feel like comes out in Jubilee. This is a line in the sand moment. We forget the former things, see I'm doing a new thing, and it starts now. Yeah,
and the old has gone, the new has come, in terms of we're new creations. And actually I love, my favourite chapter of the Mercy book is...
What, the one you wrote?
Yeah, the one
The one I really like the most that I did write.
Yeah, that one, 'Tis Mercy All. But there's a chapter in it that I love because God spoke to me so powerfully through it. And it was called, I think it's called something like Mercy's version of your story, or God's version of your story. I love the chapter, can't remember the name of it, but it's all about how God rewrites those labels over us that we've rewritten. And I particularly love, for me, Isaiah 62 has become really precious, where it says, no longer will you be called abandoned or rejected or forsaken, different 62, translations.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. And then it says, you shall be called my delight is in her. And for me, there's been
Beulah.
This real...
Or was it Hepzibah? Can't remember which one.
That one. Yeah. Showing off your knowledge here. But, in the version I read, it's just my delight is in her. But this, there's this really... I've had this really profound and precious experience of God erasing this label, which felt like it was writ large over my life, which was rejected and abandoned, and him writing, my delight is in her. And I love this idea that we get to do that for everyone we meet, anyone we meet. And actually that irrespective of poverty or wealth or class or any of that, I love that God has called us to see someone as he sees them. And to say, others may have told you you're not good enough, but actually I'm going to say something different over you as part of God revealing himself to you and yourself to you and how he sees you. So I feel like that's a big part of this reconciliation, is we get to tell a different story. Like you said, we get to see people differently. And God does it in the Bible with loads of people. I'll give you one example, David. When I think of him, I think adulterer, murderer. God says a man after my own heart. And he says that before he commits adultery and murder. And it's again repeated in the book of Acts, which is after, long after. And I love that God looks at the whole story of David's life. I would see it in that snapshot of his worst moment. But God says, you're not your worst moment. I see the whole and I see your heart, and I'm calling you a man after God's own heart. And God does that time and time again with people in the Bible. he doesn't summarize their stories the way I would. And he doesn't summarize your story or mine the way we might. Not in the snapshots, but in the whole and the heart. And I love that. We get to do that for people.
Yes, we do. And actually, some of the things we've talked about are really tricky to land, aren't they? But actually, us at the point of meeting and ministering to people and asking the Lord, it's not overly complicated, is it?
No.
God, give me an insight into their true identity in you, your plans and purposes. There's a prophetic edge in that as well, but calling it out in people and actually fighting for that in their lives where other people aren't going to see it, aren't going to get it. I am fully believing that God is going to fully bring to the forefront everything he intended to. And I suppose it leads us on to restoration.
Yeah.
There was the restoration of belongings, the restoration of land. There was the restoration of probably identities in that, wasn't there as well? And I suppose we need to be those who are all about the restoration of the land, our communities that we hold dear, the restoration of families, we should be restoration people, the restorer of broken places, the restorer of walls and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And I met this guy last year who, his background was violence and alcohol and drug addiction, prison, lying, deceit, probably a self-described nasty piece of work. And, he encounters Jesus, he meets Jesus, and now he spends so much of his time serving in things like food banks and what have you. And he says, what he loves to do more than anything is just have a cup of tea with someone and tell them change is possible. Like your life your past doesn't dictate your future. And you can know what it is to not be who you thought you were. And you can be restored, in a sense, to the image of God in you. And I look at this guy and I think, wow, he lived with this broken, sort of distorted, he was still made in the image of God all along, but in the past, it was deeply buried under all this awful stuff. But now he's being restored to how God created him, and this kind-hearted, actually, and gentle guy who loves to bring hope to other people. And I love God does that, doesn't he? He restores us so that we can restore others.
He does, yes. And I feel like I'm surrounded by people that would be able to testify to the restoration that God has brought to their life, restoration of family, restoration of their identity, restoration of giftings and whatever it might be. There's this constant all around me whenever people begin to testify, families that are brought back together. And I just absolutely love it. It's probably the one that I see most evident and so visible around me. But hey, Nat, we've done well. We've come to the end of our time together. And wow, I feel like we could do another 6 on this and continue to go ever deeper. But I'm really grateful for your wisdom and your insight and your biblical breadth is vast.
Oh, no, I need to say, don't I? I'm grateful for... No. I don't want people to think that you're the kinder of the two of us. I need to, no. It's always a joy, always thought-provoking. I always feel inspired by you. And
that's great.
Encouraged by you and spurred on deeper into these things, which I might not like you for in every moment when God's saying, now give me that and now do that. But it's good, isn't it? And we'll find out, I guess, whether people want a season 4 or whether... It's
awkward now if they don't give us one.
Oh, yeah. I see people thinking now there's no thumbs down button.
Is there not? Have we got rid of that?
On social media, I don't know.
Oh, perfect.
What, can people vote us down?
I know you can on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, okay, I'm not looking. But, hey, I'm up for...
Send us your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Good or bad, hey, it's all good. We'll probably be sheltered from the negative, so feel free to go wild. But we're really grateful that you've enjoyed these. I don't know where you've been, walking on the beach, walking around your community, sat at home pondering or whatever it might be. We hope that it's triggered you to think. We hope that it's pointed you to Jesus. We hope that it's helped you on your journey as you're following him in serving those that he's placed around you. Be blessed. The Lord is near. Go in his name. Amen.